Ayo, my Planet Coaster friends, Johnny 5 Live here, and welcome to Update 10 and the Parades Pack DLC overview video. We're going deep today. Update 10 is here, and it's got the guests saying, ooh, ah, and Dalacha. At Vista points and even points, set your points focus to watch your guests' amazement and even plan elaborate event sequences in the event points trigger sequence. Keep the celebration going with new souvenir flags and wands, and let the confetti fly with new confetti cannons. Just don't forget to put up the bunting too. Check the Planet Coaster website for full update notes. The parade pack is now available and is bringing all the new blockbuster features, parades, dress up your floats with all new scenery pieces and performer platforms to wow your guests with parading procession that runs right through your path. But that's not all. The parade pack also brings 2 exhilarating new coasters, as well as iconic electronic trolley transport ride, and 2 show-stopping new flat rides, the Little Dipper and the Wild Jumpin' Disc. Be sure to say a cheery heyo to the eccentric new entertainer Mayor Pip Whistle, and let loose your inner city planner with the timeless small town scenery pack, the parade pack, available now. Yippee yallipper! Okay, there's a lot to unpack here, and in fact, I did not even know there was a transport ride when looking through all this stuff. So let's dive into it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are in game. This is our Planko friend map. Say hello to all the wonderful community members, the Patreon supporters. Thank you guys so much for your support. All the community members who have submitted Planko friends throughout the last year since we've invented this Planko friend kit system. And what we created about a year ago, we made parades. But look at, we did it with this. We did little trains pulling people through, and we had this idea for a parade system, and we really wanted parades in Planet Coaster, so we found a way to do it. And now we have a way to do it. So technically it was already in the game through a janky means, and now they have a way to do it that is a little bit more intuitive for beginners. But arguably, it's pretty much the same method as what we used here with the cars, just a little bit more refinement, customization, and the ability to add entertainers to the cars. So that's pretty cool, pretty new. And there's a lot of different things that you can do with this pack in terms of that's not necessarily advertised on the pack or intended to be done. And one resource I want to provide you, one amazing content creator, is Taggy. Shout out to Taggy. I'll put a link down to their YouTube channel in the description. They find ways to do incredible things with the tools in Planet Coaster, to do things that you never thought possible before. I watched their video and I was able to do this, which is, it's a spring with a platform on it, and it's like teeter-totter essentially, and there's a million ways you can use this. But now I can actually take my little entertainer here, and I can bring them anywhere I want, right? That's cool. So you can make sets, you can make scenes, you can do shows, and you can do all sorts of things with this new kind of platform tool, this little blue thing down here, which you can find here, and you can attach it to a float, which will then activate the ability to add a mascot, and then you can do whatever you want with that. But that is actually not the intended usage of it, and Taggy has found very fun and interesting ways to do it. As you can see here, if I take an entertainment stand, it says here, not attached to a parade. And I wanted to dive right into this being the first thing, the most important thing of the feature. Before I even bought this, I saw tidbits and teasers of entertainment points, right? And I was like, this is awesome. And I thought this was going to be a feature right out of the rip, right out of the box, where you could just put entertainers wherever you wanted them to. And I was like, that's what I want in Planet Coaster. That's such a good feature. And then being able to trigger them and do all sorts of things with them, I was super excited. And then I got into the game and it said not attached to parade. I was like, wait a second, I have to have a parade to use this feature? So I went and watched Taggy's video, and I figured out, know, there is definitely a way to do it, but it takes rocket science to figure it out. I crashed the game like 5 times trying to do this. Therefore, it's not intended to be a feature in the game, but my feedback to Frontier and my question is, why isn't it a feature by default? Why is the tech related to the parade and not the entertainment stand itself? Why can't we just place entertainers on points, trigger them, and activate them? Why do we need to go through the process of jerry-rigging it to a parade? And that is where I'm slightly disappointed with this pack and this game in general, as with the movers and all these little widgets that we get. With every update comes like all sorts of fun new widgets and movers and things like that, which are very limited unless you go through like a Taggy University program where you attach 15 of these together, put them on a rotator, swap them out with this, and then replace them with that, and then hide them halfway across the map, or make them reappear somehow somewhere else. And a lot of this stuff has no undo. Once you attach something, like I have here, I can't detach it in any way. I can only reattach it to something else. It's basically a rabbit hole of no return. And a lot of these things are simple game design features where we could have them in the game at a much easier, much more intuitive way of creating them if Frontier just implemented them in a more, accessible manner. And I just don't see why we have to jump through loops to eventually get there when we can just have it as a main base feature in the game in the first place. So anyways, that's my little rant to start things off. We can place entertainers and make little, shows and different things and have them walking around and animated. If we attach them to a parade, hide said parade in the ground or something, and then put it into test mode and bring our, and then do it all through smoke and mirrors. So that's cool. It is that is technically the main feature that I'm looking forward to in this pack, but it's actually not an intended feature out of the box. It's a knock-on effect. It's a side effect of this new system. So I'll take it. All right, I'll take it. But hey, Frontier, please do think of ways to allow us to do the things that we see Taggy doing and other people doing that are, enhancing the theme park experience, but having them a little bit more accessible to people that are, downloading it for the first time and checking it out and not watching tutorials and videos and that sort of thing. So with that out of the way, that is the main feature. This is a parade. It's moving around. We can put it into test mode, and you can see this guy is leading the charge. He's walking around. We have all these little entertainment stands. So you get to build your own little, thing, and then you go ahead and you attach said thing to one of these platforms. So an example of that here is this parade here. I take that and then I attach it to parade. And from there, I can kind of position it the way I want to, and it's done. It's that simple. And now I hit play and it can go. I was curious. I wanted to see how many parades I could fit on a road. It goes up to 50. That's pretty nuts. And then there's also multiple trains and all that stuff. So it's pretty cool. As I mentioned earlier, we did figure out how to do this in the original game without the DLC, and you can use cars. So technically you don't need this DLC to pull this off. You could just do what we did here. However, I will say this is much more intuitive, and as mentioned, you can have the little characters attached to them, which adds a whole other layer of complexity to it. And the way the cars drive and turn is much more intuitive than that of a huntsman or, regular track ride. So, and you could also, design how the spacing works and how all that goes, which we struggled with doing it this way. It could become a little bit of a headache. So it is a much more improved system and a feature that we obviously wanted in the game. And I look forward to, using this and also creating a community challenge. So you guys can expect, if you're watching this video right now, give me the weekend to come up with a rules document and all that stuff. We will 100% be doing a parade challenge of some sort, so you can get practicing how that works. This globe, it might be the best piece in Planet Coaster history, by the way. Oh my god, it just reminds me now, where's my blueprint? We're getting sporadic here today, okay? It's not your typical standard format. It's something else. I made Juno for Restaurant Rivals. Yeah, this is an Overwatch character that I painstakingly constructed, and we made a small version and a big version, and then I made one animated and one static. So it's an Overwatch character that I built in Planet Coaster, and now, woo! Juno, where are you? This is my favorite new piece, potentially. So you can see Juno originally has a helmet on, a space helmet, and I was not able to make said space helmet because I would have to use a bunch of glass pieces turned inward and they don't scale properly and all that stuff. So I just kind of put this like glowy ring around it to give it the, make it look kind of like it has some sort of glowy aura, which can somewhat represent that of a dome. So this might actually be worth the 25 bucks Canadian for the DLC just for this piece alone. Hell yeah, let's go. Juno, please tell me this works. Oh, that is the smallest it scales down to. Okay. No! I take it all back. Oh no. And this character is massive. Well, you know what? I just need it to be like 20% smaller. No! Christmas is canceled. How dare you? Okay, what is this thing called? Boo? It's called Boo. It's called Boo. Okay, Crate Custom, Boo. Boo? Wait, what? I'm just gonna copy it. I think it's supposed to be Bubble? Why is it cut off? Bubble. No, there's only one size. It's not a one size fits all. Oh, please, you should have given us a smaller one. I guess, yeah. Definitely can't put it on this one, that's for sure. And it barely fits on my large one. But you know what? That is somewhat of an improvement. And if we go to nighttime, it should glow. Look at that. And you should be able to modify the color of it. Does that work? Maybe. It did say it has this little glowy thing on it. Well, I'm slightly disappointed, but that sphere piece is amazing. Frontier, please do give us more sizes of that, because that is such a good little piece. And yeah, it almost has my Juno complete. A little bit on the big side, but I'm not mad at it. It's still an improvement. It's something. So based off those patch notes, this little guy is also new to the game. Oh, it's a trolley with a train track. That's so good. Can we customize the trolley? We can attach our own scenery to it. It doesn't look like we can swap out the actual car, but I suppose you would just use a different train entirely for that. Choo-choo, doors open up, bling bling, makes a little sound, and off it goes. It's adorable. Okay, let's get into the actual pack, what we're getting and all that stuff. Well, first of all, you get a new single rail coaster, right? Different way it's constructed. The pieces are slightly different. I'm not sure what model this takes inspiration from, but it's definitely a single rail coaster with some tweaks to both the train and some of the segments, like the block sections, as well as the individual pieces seem to be bolted together slightly different than what we're used to seeing. And then the same could be said for a new dive coaster, different train swap out, slightly different track pieces, and yeah, so play around with that, have some fun there, and it's always good to have more coaster variations and options. Now, before we go into each of the individual pieces, which is somewhat exciting, we can see what you can actually build with said pieces, and then also the new flat ride. So this is a little tiny drop tower. It's a baby drop tower, the Little Dipper, and as you can see with the lighting and what Frontier has done to this standard out-of-the-box blueprint, you can see the new pieces kind of feel and look similar to our Planet Coaster 1 vintage DLC pack, which is really, really cool. Like, I remember these almost exact pieces, both the light bulbs and the I don't know what these archways are called, but yeah, it gives me vintage DLC vibes, but what it's also representative of is that of a main street. You know, if you want to make like a Walt Disney Main Street type thing, you could definitely do that now with, again, these pieces feeling very vintage and also Main Street-y. And I like that because it harkens back to a pack that we really love from Planet Coaster 1 with the vintage, but then it kind of adds a little bit more to it, giving it more of a Main Street appeal. And then, of course, with that Main Street appeal, you're gonna want to have parades. So you're gonna be able to now build like a really intricate, beautiful looking Main Street with all these new gardens and pieces and all that stuff. But then you'll be able to have the parade going around it And if you want something a little bit more of a vintage arcade, well, you just got the arcade pack. So, you know, now you can add the free arcade DLC pack update to this stuff, and then have in your main street, go into one of these buildings and there's a vintage arcade, right? And I think between the last update and this combined, we can now do both main streets, vintage packs, and all that sort of stuff. And then the parades it is the selling feature, the parades, but as mentioned, you could technically do them before. It's just they're better now. What I think is, you know, for me, the main selling feature now after looking at all this is it really, the hero here is the pieces, particularly these glowing ones. And now this might be a ridiculous request, but from the looks of these, if you look at these, they trigger at night only. You can also deactivate them, and it's basically just adding like a luminescence to this. Part of me wishes we could just click any object in the game, click a checkbox that says luminate, you know what I mean? Because these are so rad, and it seems to me like it's just a tech feature, a shader that they're applying to it, which enables that. In theory, you could go back and add that shader to every object in the game, question mark? I don't know. Seems like a lot of work, obviously, but now I hope to see more pieces going forward have the option to illuminate these, because they're fantastic. There were a few neon pieces in Planet Coaster 1 and they got heavily used, but you can see this has a glow to it, a hot spot in the center, a glow, and I believe they're all recolorable as well. Yes, they are, and I could see a bajillion and one usages. Why is it not recoloring? Confirm. I have to duplicate it? Why can't I recolor this? Confirm. It changes the color back immediately. What about this one? Must be bugged. That sucks. Going into orb. Try grabbing a new one. People are saying that you have to reload the game sometimes. Jesus. Okay, let's leave the game and reload it. Okay, we've reloaded. Let's try now. Hey, that's strange, but hey, we did it. Ooh, so there's obviously a bug that if you've been playing too long, it affects the ability to color things. Okay, all right. Well, anyways, I lost my train of thought. The hype behind these recolorable, maybe sometimes, objects. I can see a lot of people doing some really fun stuff with all of these glowy bits. So I put all the glowy bits down in a row for us to check out. And again, this gives me big time vintage vibes. You can make some cool Tron stuff, all sorts of neat things with all of these glowy bits. It's going to be useful for even just like the Christmas time when we're making our little Christmas villages. There's all sorts of fun things you can do with this to just make glowy trim on certain aspects of things. And yeah, I really am a fan of these kind of recolorable glowy light bits, and then obviously at daytime they'll turn off, and they're actually assets that you can use in fun ways as well. Some of these would even go well with the aquatic pack in just their bubbliness and their silliness, as well as flumes. Again, more aquatic pack stuff. If we colored these yellow, they blend in with the aquatic pack very nicely, and they also blend in with flumes, building your own water parks. And in some ways you could probably find a way to add these in and around and scale them around your actual water slides so that you can actually have your guests sliding through neon tubes, which could be quite cool. So there's a look at that. But yeah, all these assets are pretty good. This is generally the bulk of what you're paying for with a lot of these DLCs, and in my opinion, a lot of this just screams Main Street, vintage, and of course, parades. And I think all of them kind of go hand in hand with each other in many ways. So there's a look at all the little pieces there. Very, very cool stuff. Tons of little details. And again, like even just these are quite nice. These rocks with the moss. Are these the ones that, it's static. Okay, the texture does not change with the direction of it. There's a lot of blocks, and obviously these are intended for you to build parade floats with, but they're going to have a ton of other uses as well. Some of them have like rounded edges, some have sharper edges. It's a bit excessive how many circle ones there are and how they're labeled and put in a row. It's very challenging to figure out the difference between them and then how they're displayed. This has always been a small gripe of mine with Planet Coaster games in general, or Planet games, both Planet Zoo, Planet Coaster 1, all of them. It's technically, it's like when you have, if anyone has ever played Lego before, this is your box of Lego, right? and you just have all your Lego in one box, and then you dump it all on the floor and you go, oh my God, how am I ever going to build anything? It's so hard to find that piece I'm looking for. So what you do is you take all your Legos and you put them in containers and try to create some sense out of it. I feel like with Frontier, they're giving us the box of Legos. And, you know, as you can see, I've put them all down in order, but there is no real rhyme or reason to the order. Why aren't the small ones together? Why aren't the round ones together? Why aren't the square ones together? And it has something to do with their naming conventions. So this is a big feedback to Frontier and a request that, you know, we have the ability to favorite things and then kind of like put things in our own little tabs of favorites. But what I would really love to be able to do is to rename all of the objects and add my own tags and filters to them all. Basically, I want to take the whole pack that I just paid for and reorganize it, which is a huge headache every time there's a DLC. But the thing is, having that control to be able to actually rename these, retag them, and kind of categorize them ourselves in a more organized fashion is going to make it much easier to build with, because the way it is right now, it's like looking into a box of Legos and trying to dig through it to find that piece that you want. And it takes a very long time of building and building and building until you start learning the names of what you're looking for. And a lot of the times, the challenge with Planet Coaster is there's a piece that you know would be perfect. You just don't know what it's called or what pack it's in or where it can be found. And you're just spending a lot of time sifting through these menus, which can get very, very frustrating. And oftentimes what I do when I'm building something in this game is I put them all down like this, decide which ones I think are going to be useful to me. Then I make a new pile somewhere else of all the ones that I think I'm going to use. And I basically just start making organized piles. And I'd love to be able to do that right here in the window so that I have all my organized piles here. So a small request there, but yes, the pieces overall are very good. They're not bad at all. It's very vintage, it's very Main Streety, and very parade-y. It's quite fun. I quite like it. And we also have some extras to look at here. Kind of wanted to save this for later. And we're also going to do a little bit of experimenting here before we end off the video as well. But we do have new fireworks. Cool. I'm just going to plaster a bunch down. They should be set to triggering every 5 seconds. Trigger every 5 seconds. Yeah, I'm going to plaster them all down and then set them to trigger. Look at the chaos. What have I done? Boom. Okay, some of these are really quite cool. They're all kind of just going off at once, but you can see them here. Noise. Ooh, I really like this trailing one. And I guess there's also confetti cannons, or the ability to trigger confetti cannons. Confetti, please, Jerry. As we read in the update notes. So let me see if I can find those. But great fireworks. I'm gonna crash my game. Now, I'm searching for confetti and there was nothing in the pack itself. If we search for confetti under content packs and go for parades. But there already was a confetti cannon in the game. So I'm not entirely sure what they meant in the update notes saying that there's a confetti cannon, unless it's located somewhere else. Yeah, there's gonna be a few little extras here and there that I may have missed. Oh, definitely there's like new benches, right? Let's check these out. And then we go to content pack. Parade pack. Yeah, so there's going to be new bins, benches, umbrellas, seating for restaurants, all looking vintage. Some canopies to go along with those for your shop fronts and that sort of thing. So very cool. And then we have our mascot, of course. It's a new mayor, male and female, or masculine and feminine versions. Very cool. And now you can attach those to the parades. There's probably like a few little extras here and there that I may have missed. And there's going to be a lot of discoveries. So what we're gonna have to wait and see. I'll keep my, keep tabs on Discord, and maybe I'll make a little room of interesting discoveries or interesting mechanics. You can also, as I mentioned, check out Taggy's channel as they like kind of tinker around with things and figure things out. The pack sort of evolves over time. Like, hey, if you mix this with that, did you know you could do that? So I might have to put up a little channel on Discord where it's like DLC discoveries or interesting things that people come up with. And then maybe what we could do is have a little follow-up video of, like, oh, did you know you could do this? Also, if we do a little parade challenge, what we might see from people building their parades, if they come up with any interesting mechanisms or things that we didn't know was possible with this pack, they might just actually include that into their submission on its own, right? So yeah, definitely keep an eye on Taggy's channel because they're going to come up with all sorts of interesting things like I showed with this thingy. Oh no, it killed my guy. No! I worked so hard on that. Or I reloaded it and now he's gone. What? Performer points. Not attached to Parade. So the whole system that I came up with broke when I reloaded. And that's what I was saying with these attachment points in Planet Coaster, where you can add objects to, you hit attach scenery. It doesn't seem like you can very easily go back through the chain of events. And thus, when you get to the end of something and it breaks, basically have to delete everything and start over. And it becomes very tricky where if Frontier, developed a history list or a hierarchy list, you could see that this piece is attached to this piece, that is attached to this piece, and see a parenting and children list like you do in any software. You would be able to go into the particular piece that you wanted to in a list. So I definitely feel like this whole attached scenery thing from objects definitely needs an update. And I will say that as good as these updates have been, like the past few ones, the Sorcery DLC, the Toy Box, and now this, they're good content in terms of what you're getting. You're going to be able to build more pretty looking things for your theme parks, as well as you have some additional scenery or rides to be able to mess around with to, again, enhance your theme park designs. They're good value. But what I really want to see from Frontier moving forward, and it could be through updates, it doesn't necessarily have to be through DLC, but what I want to see is that innovation. When we first opened up Planet Coaster 2, when we found out, hey, you can attach things to rides. There's attachment points. You can attach things, create your own custom coaster trains and attach things to the coaster trains. Attach lights to it, do all sorts of things like that. Building flumes and water parks. There were big selling features to Planet Coaster 2 that were amazing out of the box, but just left a little bit to be desired. Like, oh, it's really cool, but I wish it did this. And then a good example of that is being able to animate, move, and trigger your own characters, or being able to attach movers to other things to create events, and being able to edit that timeline. There's just certain features in this game that are really good, but just not, underdeveloped. And I would love to see, as I mentioned, being able to do a lot of these things, like having what was a character here moving back and forth without having to jump through loops and holes and basically break the game and do what the game was unintended to do and make it intended. Just build that into the game by default. And having something like an entertainer point where I can animate them, move them, slide them around, and create a show, this would have been the perfect update to add that in, and it would definitely be the selling feature for me and the big the thing. But we do have people like Taggy finding ways to make it happen. It's just very complicated, and as you can see, the moment I loaded the park, it all broke, and I don't know how to fix it. I can't remember how I did it, so I just got to delete it all and start over, and that could be very discouraging as well. But obviously, it could not be working properly, or it could be broken because it was not intended to do that in the first place. So I'd love to see some more tech added to Planet Coaster, especially with these DLCs, like a free update that improves triggers, that improves entertainers, that improves certain aspects, and then sell us the DLC on top of that. That way the DLC goes in hand with the new updates, right? So, I haven't seen any like revolutionary changes to Planet Coaster since its release. And I would just love to see a little bit more improvements to the tech and not just focus solely on the art. And with that, let me switch my monitor. Now you can see my DLSS in the top left-hand corner. This scene is, it doesn't have that much in it. It's not a fully fledged working theme park, but you can see this parade tends to lag things out. So I'm at 54 DLSS. I delete my train entirely, and now we're up to 88. You can attach things to coasters and rides as you see them working there. If I undo that and push play, you can do that in the game, but it's not fully developed in the tech-wise, that it's not technically stable or performative, right? You can do it to a certain extent. You can have a few things. Once you have too many of them, we wanted to have a massive parade going around the park so that we could have every single community member on display for every video, but as we noticed, it kills the game. So with that, I want to test before we end things off. Does this new system perform better, and is it optimized in such a way that it's an improvement from the old system, allowing us to intentionally move things around more deliberately without running into performance issues? So the way we can test that is to just, this little piece here is 156 objects total. Maybe what I can do is kind of stack it a few times. All right, I have a little cluster of 1,200. I don't think it's too unreasonable to see somebody making a float that's 1,200 pieces. There we go. We're going to attach it to this one. It really struggles here. Okay, I'm going to just do it to every other. Okay, so each one of these is about 1,200, which, again, I think 1,200 for a parade isn't the most extreme thing. Especially, you know, in a theme park, you're going to want to have at least 10 on a parade. But as you can see, Frontier has allowed us to do up to 50 for a singular parade. So if I were to artistically polish a whole train of 50 to my artistic standards, is that something the game will even allow me to do? You built the feature, but is the engine capable of handling said feature, or does it require some further optimizations? And as you can see in the top left-hand corner, we are at about 64 DLSS frames, which means if we turn DLSS off, we'll probably be at about 20 frames per second. And now we put this thing into test mode, and we are definitely... it didn't really change that much. So these movers might be more efficient than the other ones, the other method of doing things. We could put this one into test mode as well. And then I am curious to just put down a few more default ones that the game provides. Okay, we got a few extras here. We'll open up these guys. And here we are. So we're just below 60 FPS. I did go a little ham on these ones. It's a little bit on the laggy side. It does drop to 40 sometimes there. So it is possible to do this with moderation. I believe once you really start adding the detail to the parades, you will run into performance issues. So if you are going to make a mega park that's end to end to end, that's going to eat up a lot of your part count, right? And then you add in a parade as well. Just make sure you test the parade in a sandbox all on its own to see how much that impacts your performance. As mentioned, we're supposed to be at 144 frames per second in an ideal situation, and we're about 100 less than that simply by having these in our park. So it's not entirely the most optimal situation, but if you do it in moderation, like Frontier has done here, and these being pretty small in terms of part count, 150, you know, that sort of thing. So if we do a parade contest or challenge, we're probably going to say, you know, you're limited to 500 pieces. Otherwise, we're going to have to put them all on different maps. If we have 50 community members all doing 500, 4,000 pieces each, as you can see here, it's just not going to run. And I would even make an argument that even if every community member was limited to 200 pieces, times that by 100 people submitting, that might not even run. So we would have to definitely view them in different parks and different scenes. So it's not the most optimal setup, but in the standard regular builder who's not pushing the limits of the video game and just wants to have a simple, fun parade going around their theme park, obviously it performs just fine. But here in Channel 5 Gaming and with this community and what we see people doing, even what Taggy does over their channel, they're gonna have a billion things combined to a to a ride just to see what kind of things we can do with it, and it will eventually bog out your system. So do it within moderation, because even this simple test here shows we're starting to kill our park. If I get rid of this, we should drop, we should go from the 40 frames up to something much higher, and it's climbing back up to 70. So that little setup there was about 30 frames. And we get rid of all these, and we gained another 35 frames, bringing us up 50, up to 110 DLSS frames. Mind you, there's still a bunch of stuff in this park. So yeah, just that little setup that I did over there, it did drop us about 60, 70 frames. And I guess that, to my previous point about wanting to see Frontier make improvements to both the tech and the engine and the mechanisms with each update, one of the things I was hoping for was when you attach things to moving objects, the game would lag out, and we tested that in the past. We tested that with our own parades, and we had to pull back and reserve it for, you know, specific people only, because it did have a performance impact. So I was hoping that an update that focuses particularly on moving things. I was hoping to see them optimize said moving objects within the engine, and then being able to allow for twice or 3 times as much because of those optimizations, allowing us to go a little bit crazier than we would be able to do before the update. So I'm hoping in future updates we see some improvements to animatronics, performers, entertainers, triggers, and timelines for the animation timeline sequencers. But overall, the actual pack itself it's pretty good. I think we're going to see some fun stuff come out of the parades. I'm excited to see what some of the other content creators do. I'm excited to see what the community can come up with the actual parade system itself. And I'm pretty excited to make a parade challenge / mini contest. And then in the grand scheme of things, we're going to have things like trolleys moving down main streets, moving down vintage areas of parks. We have a few new coasters, a single rail, love a good single rail, a dive coaster. So we're going to start seeing these things take place in park spotlights. And then what kind of unique shows you can do, as mentioned at the top of the video, you know, being able to use the float to animate certain characters and entertainers. We might see little curtain shows where people, you know, unveil a curtain and then there's characters moving around. We might see animatronics on actual coasters and being a part of the experience on an on-ride, dark ride, or coaster. And so people are going to be finding ways to use these new mechanisms in ways that weren't intended, which is going to overall enhance the quality of the spotlights and the creations that we're seeing sent into the show. So I think there's a lot of things that are going to be super exciting with this DLC that we haven't quite discovered yet. So it's going to be a fine wine. It's going to get better in time. And thus, I do think it's worth your $1 just for the pieces alone, just for the art stuff that you're getting. All of this stuff is very good. You're going to be able to build a main street, and you got a couple new things to play around with there. So I definitely think it's worth the value there. But then if you're really invested in the game, you're a hardcore community member, and you're really getting in the nitty gritty, and you follow Taggy's videos and you see what you could do with it, I think it's gonna have a ripple effect of amazing things that you can do that you never thought were possible before. So I definitely think it's an investment that with time, energy, and tinkering, you're gonna find some very clever things to do with this pack that you didn't think were possible. So I'm actually really excited more about this pack than I was with the DLC or toy box, because it does add a few things with the actual parade mechanisms that will change the outcome of the end result of what we can build. And that's important. Having a little bit more tech in each of these updates is going to be good. And that's what I want to see from Planet Coaster going forward. And that is my thoughts on the parade pack, ladies and gentlemen. Very good. Very good. I'm excited for the future, and stay tuned. We'll do some sort of fun little parade challenge. So jump on Discord, come join us, keep an eye on announcements, and we'll have some cool stuff coming out soon. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye now.